Hey everybody, welcome to the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. I am your host, John Santiago, and in this episode, I'm talking with Levi Kelly. Levi is a full-time YouTube creator who gives his viewers an inside look in some of the most unique stays that you can find on Airbnb. We're talking about tiny houses, yurts, shipping containers, you name it. Levi's seen it and he stayed in them. In this episode, Levi and I talk about how he made the transition from being a full-time freelance videographer into a full-time YouTube creator. And we also talk about how he finds these unique homes to create content around. Stay tuned. You're locked in and listening to the Videocraft Show presented by Video Husky. All right, Levi Kelly, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast, man. This is a treat. You know, I am a fan of the kind of content you're doing because I really I really have this, interest in tiny homes and alternative living and whatnot. So that's how I discovered your content, just basically going through, I think, searching on YouTube for like tiny house builds and whatnot, and obviously like the production quality of what you're making is so good.
Well, thank you.
Why don't we start with like awesome. Why don't we start with just where you got started with all of this?
For sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for having me for one. Where I got started with all of this. So I've been a videographer, really. That's my main trade for the past 4 or 5 years or so, right out of high school, basically. And then, I started working for a couple marketing companies and a few real estate agents. So when I was working in the real estate kind of market as a freelance, I was doing a lot of homes and everything, photos and video. And I just wanted to start a YouTube channel of my own because I love YouTube for one. And I knew people could make money off YouTube. So I kind of went into it thinking that I'm like, well, I'll try this out so I can kind of work for myself and do my own thing. Maybe get away from the freelance stuff. Maybe one day. We'll try it out. So I just started trying it out, and about 8 months into it of really working hard at it, I would say I had a couple videos really, I would say, go viral. It got a couple million views, and I was like, wow, this is actually a thing. I can make this happen. So then ever since then, I started working more towards that. In the beginning, I was posting like random stuff, and then every now and then I'd post like a tiny home tour I would be at whenever I'd be like traveling with my friends. I'd get a tiny house specifically just for fun because I thought they were really neat too. So about the third, I think, like home tour I did, it was a container home, and it did really well. So then I just stuck with that.
So I didn't know that you freelance for real estate agents or real estate companies. I imagine that kind of helped you in terms of the way you shoot these videos now, where you go on these tiny house tours or these really unique Airbnbs around the country.
Yeah, I would definitely say it had a big role in it because I definitely had a style. I kind of did every home very similarly, the same. So I would just take all that and do it with my tiny home tours.
Were you also were you also like the face of those videos for the real estate agents that you were working for, or were they the people that were kind of walking the viewers through the rooms and the different spaces in the houses?
Yeah, they were the ones. I was just behind the camera. They were the ones guiding everybody in, and they were a lot shorter too, because we'd post them just random, like on different media outlets. So it was like just a couple minute long tours. My tours are a lot more in depth, but it's just different styles. So that's what we did.
I'm curious about um I'm really curious about getting started as in video in particular, right? Like I'm amazed. I did read an article that, and you confirmed it, that you did get started right out of high school. You graduated high school 4 years ago, 2016. You mentioned.
Yep, 2016.
So were you somebody when you were in high school or when you were a kid? Were you somebody that was just tinkering around with video quite a bit?
Yeah, in high school, me and my a couple buddies of mine, we would make like just goofy videos trying to make people laugh. I think that's how a lot of people get into it. They do it for fun and make really silly videos. And then as I started to get a lot more interest in video, I try to get better and maybe create some stories along with everything I was doing. So then I was saying, as time went on, it got a little bit better. And then I started seeing people start asking me if they could have videos of certain things. So then once people started asking me, I would just start charging money. And I liked it a lot. In fact, I liked doing videos for everybody else and started making money. And I thought, well, I really enjoy this and it's making money, so I'll try to stick with it.
So you were already charging in high school, or was this after you graduated high school?
It was probably towards the end of my high school career, and then you graduate in the spring, and then in the summer, I started charging a lot. Not a lot, but a couple people started coming in.
How did you, there's two things I want to ask you about that. How did you go about like setting your prices, and then how did you find clients? Was it just mostly through word of mouth?
Yeah, prices I think is the hardest part because, I had no idea. I would do some stuff for free because I didn't think like my videos were really worth anything. So I kind of did some stuff for free and trying to build up my portfolio a little bit. But like I said, every now and then somebody would ask for me to do it. And if they asked me, I would charge and I would just make something up. And if they didn't agree, I would just lower my prices until they agreed just so I could do it. So it was really just random. And looking back, I feel really bad for doing that, but it is what it is.
What do you feel bad about in particular? It's
Well,
just like not having like a set structure to it or something.
yeah, not having a set structure. And I was always worried people would ask how much I charged because I charged everybody differently just because I didn't have anything set structure. So as time went on, I kind of always raised my prices like fairly quickly. And yeah, so hopefully that's why I kind of feel bad. But it is what it is, I think. I think that's how you grow.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah. I've freelanced quite a bit the last few years, and I can. That's why I was curious because that is something that I think anybody who freelances, or if you're just even going into business deals, and I'll definitely be asking you about this a little bit later on in terms of like working with brands and stuff like that. It's just setting prices, especially if you don't really know the marketplace for it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just like undersell yourself because like you said, you might not necessarily believe that your work is actually worth it when in reality you probably should be charging a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. I think I was undercharging a lot of the times, but I just wanted the job more than anything. And I would say yes to any type of job that came my way back then because I just wanted it all. And whenever like people would ask a lot about weddings, that was kind of more of a set structure because that was pretty consistent. So I guess I kind of made my price a little bit more consistent with that type of thing. But
Gotcha. What was the oddest? Were any like projects that you took on while you were a videographer that were pretty bizarre or kind of like out there?
sometimes I would get asked to do like a boudoir behind the scenes video shoot, and I'd be like, no thanks, I'm not going to do that. Those are probably the only ones I ever denied. Other than that, no, just the typical like weddings or behind the scenes stuff. Uh, One time I got asked to do like a behind the scenes documentary for an indie film. That was pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that sounds like something interesting to do. How long did the shoot last for that one?
Yeah, it was about a week or a week and a half in Ohio, which is where I'm from, and then like 2 weeks out in Los Angeles. So that was really fun. That was awesome experience. And just like random gigs like that kind of came my way.
Nice. So again, how did you go about finding a lot of these gigs early on? Were people just coming to you, or were you posting about yourself on places like Craigslist or other marketplaces?
Definitely people just kind of coming towards me and reaching out to me first. And then I would always post stuff. So all my content's just online. I never had a website really or anything. It was just like my Instagram stuff. That was basically my portfolio and just what people seen that I posted or that I've done work for other people too. So lots of word of mouth. So I'm very thankful for that.
What was it that about video that you gravitated to the most versus say like other creative mediums? I mean, like there's so many things you can do now these days, right? Like we're on a podcast. So
Yeah.
you can host a talk show, you could write, you could start a blog. Um what was it about video that was really compelling to you?
Yeah, that is a good question because I feel like photography is another outlet, and I feel like photography and videography go along hand in hand. And I feel like a lot of people kind of choose photography that they enjoy more, but for me is videography because I liked the storytelling aspect. I liked, capturing really cinematic, kind of going towards the movie style things, more cinematic type of structure. And I'm a very visual learner, I would say. So everything I learned came from like YouTube videos or any type of video like that. So I could correlate. I can be on the same side as video. So I like that a lot. That's why I liked it.
That's like super meta, man. Like the fact that you learned about video watching YouTube and now you do YouTube and you're doing YouTube pretty well. Like I imagine, do you ever think about that? That there are probably people out there who watch your channel and are like inspired to do what you do. In fact, I know one. I was watching his videos, and in fact, he's going to be a guest on the show. But Rob Abasolo,
Oh,
Rob the
yes.
Yes, we did not mention this before we started the show, but I am actually going to be speaking to Rob as well. So there's synergy here because you guys are in the same niche. I
Yes.
saw his video where the other day on his channel where he talked. I think he mentioned in his description that he had seen your videos and was inspired to. He was thinking, I want to do something like that. I build tiny houses. I might as well like create content myself. But
Yeah.
do you ever think about that now? Like just kind of being an inspiration to people at such a young age too.
Well, that's awesome that you're having him as a guest. I've actually have a video or two on my channel where we collaborate. I go and tour his tiny house, and we have a video together. That's awesome. But I think it's really inspiring to hear. I like hope my work inspires people because I know me whenever I started out and even now I'm heavily inspired by what other people are doing, figuring out kind of what works, what styles are people having. So it's really, and I try really hard for some like high quality YouTube content, I would say. So I'm really glad that my stuff is inspiring people. And I think I hit a market that wasn't like totally saturated or even at all saturated, which is unique accommodations, more specifically Airbnb. Because everybody, I think, can relate to Airbnb compared to like luxurious hotels or villas or things like that. So I like how I'm glad that I'm inspiring people.
Yeah, it's like within reach. I mean, it's awesome because honestly, like I can watch your videos and say, "Oh man, I could just let me find out where this is and I'll add it to my Airbnb wish list and maybe
Yes.
I'll travel there at some point." Even Rob's channel, right? Like he's a host himself. Like you could stay at his place, which is
Yeah.
it kind of serves like two purposes, right? Like um I'm also curious about you mentioned there, talking about potentially being an inspiration for people. Who are some people on YouTube or even just in cinema and movies, film? Are there any people that inspired you in particular with your style and the way that you film and shoot your content?
Yeah, I would say, I think every photographer or videographer likes Peter McKinnon on YouTube. He's like the king of the camera world. I learned a lot from him beginning, and I still like how he does things. His storytelling is really good. I'm really inspired by like Casey Neistat. He's not necessarily a videographer expert, but he's a storyteller expert. So I really enjoy how he does things like that, and capturing people's attention every so often in the video is really key, and I think it's really hard. So a couple of people like that are really inspiring to me.
What's the most challenging part about storytelling for you when it comes to creating videos?
Yeah. So since my main videos are tours of these tiny houses, It is, I would say it's pretty hard to have a continuous story, and it's not just like so it doesn't turn into a boring, descriptive video of this house that you can just zone out in very quickly. So I'm still really trying to learn how to keep people's attention and, you know, making a story out of my videos. And yeah, I think it's really hard for tiny house tours. I try to section them out to where, what's the most eye-catching thing of the house. I try to section that out every couple minutes or so, or I'll take breaks where instead of me, it's just, describing the house and taking you through it, I'll like cut to something funny that really happened, like when I was filming, or just something unique just to give a break and then go back into it.
Yeah, I imagine like I listen to This American Life, great podcast, and Ira Glass, the founder of This American Life, is like a master storyteller. And one of the things that I know that they do that could be applicable to your videos and just creation of content in general is just inserting yourself into the story, which is like what you're doing, what you described there with, referring back to points where maybe there's like a little bloopers or something like that in terms of shooting and whatnot. And I know that you and your wife just bought a fixer upper house in Ohio, and that's kind of like a little bit more personal too, right? Because
Yeah.
you're kind of like you're showing and teaching people how to how to fix up a home, and at the same time it's more of like a vlog type style versus like these like demo showcases of the Airbnbs that you're visiting.
Yeah, it's definitely an attempt to become more personable and relatable to the audience because that can be hard with just these tiny house tour videos. So we try to make it more vlog style and more personal like that. But it's also relatable, I'd say, to my audience because my audience is all about homes and, they watch to find ideas for their homes or to get inspired. Maybe they want to build a tiny house or something. So I think it relates with the channel really well.
How surprised are some people when they watch your channel? Like, I think I've seen comments where, forgive me for this, but I think there was a comment on one of the videos where the person watching your video thought you and your wife were like 17 years old, and then they realized you own the house, which is again that's really incredible. I mean, to be you're what 20, 22, 23 years old. Um, to be a homeowner like that young is incredible. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
a
go
lot of
ahead. I
people.
don't even know where I was going with that question, but I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, a lot of people think I'm pretty young, which I've always gotten that. I made a post on my YouTube a couple months back on my birthday saying, it's just my birthday today. You may be surprised that I'm actually not 17. I'm 23. And the comments from that were really funny.
So you get that like that must be really important too with like being successful on YouTube or finding some sort of success with YouTube is like just engaging with people and like acknowledging that oh yeah, I'm like reading what you're saying about me. Like this is I'm it's not just me giving you this content and this information. Like it is like a little bit more of a back and forth.
Yes, I try to respond to, the more clever comments. I read all like every single comment I read. So I try to respond to the more clever ones or if they have a question and I know it. But recently, a lot of comments. So on Rob's video, I did a tour of his tiny house and it has like 1,300,000 views right now. But I accidentally wore my shoes on the couch and I wasn't thinking. There's probably like 400 comments of people complaining about that. And I'm like, man, how many people are going to comment about that? And some of them are like really mean over something so simple as my shoes on the couch. But I think it's pretty funny looking back at it.
How do you deal with that though? Like sometimes with some of the like that's something that is obviously funny, but I'm sure there are at times like people who are mean spirited and not nice, and it's just the nature of the internet, right? Like there are just
Yeah.
trolls everywhere. I mean, but it's so like I never get it myself for being like a consumer. Like obviously it's great to have an opportunity to chat and talk with you. Somebody whose videos I've watched. Most of your viewers won't won't have that opportunity, but I just never really quite understand the thought process behind why people do that, because at the same time, like, you're a person on the other end and you have feelings too.
Exactly. Yeah, so many people, especially on the internet, just post weird, mean comments sometimes. I get a lot about either that I'm boring or like my voice sucks to listen to or just things like that. But most of them are really good comments and people are really nice, and that really boosts up, I think, the videos. And I'm glad my audience is, for the most part, very, very nice. I'd say my core audience is all nice, and it's just the random people that get on the video and just want to hate for whatever reason. I don't let it bother me. I've never have. I think a lot of them are really funny because I'm like, you're taking the time to post a comment that nobody's ever going to see except for me and you.
Yeah. No, that's a good attitude to have, man. Like, it's just kind of let it like slide off your shoulders. I feel like with content, with creating content for any platform, right? Like, you want to be able to discern the difference between good and bad feedback, right? Cuz like, there's some feedback obviously that your audience is giving you that may spark ideas for you, or tips in terms of how you can improve your videos. How do you go about doing that?
For sure, yeah. There are some people that do that. For example, in the beginning, even now, I struggle with this. Um, the words I use in my videos, the verbs, is not very broad. So that got noticed very, very quickly. And people comment, man, you need to expand your vocabulary or whatever. So, that's not really a mean comment or anything. That's just something that I wasn't aware of since I'm the creator, not the viewer, I would say. So those comments are really helpful because I'm like, I would rewatch the videos. I'm like, man, you're right. I said the word very or super or beautiful like 50 times in the video, and it's probably really annoying. So I either just cut back and try to precise what I say, or maybe think of a few more creative words. That's the hardest part because I'm not very good at, I don't have a big vocabulary. And for something at what I do, I need to know like the verbiage of some things.
Yeah. No, I it's funny that you mentioned that, cuz honestly, we're still in the early stages of producing this podcast, but I am super hyper aware now of like repeating words or being like super redundant with certain things. I have a tendency, I think, when I listen back to this tape, and other interviews, to say the word interesting a lot, or um it sounds like, or imagine. I mean, you'll probably notice me try to make that those kinds
Yeah.
of transitions in this interview, but
And I
it's
say
fun.
wow a
Like,
lot. Wow.
I'm sorry, what did you?
And I say like wow way too much. Like when I'm talking with people, wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was I think Rob did that in his video. He like spliced up Owen Wilson saying wow when you saying wow. And
Because I said
it's
that
it's
probably
it's all in good fun.
30 times in that video.
Yeah. It's all in good fun though. It's all in good fun.
Yeah.
Um so tell me more about like the early days of your channel. As you mentioned, you got started. I mean, you pretty much skyrocketed pretty quickly here. I mean, it's like within the last year or so, right, that your channel has really taken off. But then before you started focusing on the Airbnb tours, home tours, traveling and whatnot, you're kind of like dabbling on different things. And like, I know that you had some videos on minimalism. You had some videos on production, like video production and whatnot. Were you just kind of experimenting there with niches in terms of what would hit, and then you were just gonna pick the winner essentially?
Yeah, that's basically exactly what happened. In the beginning, I was like, I'm gonna post whatever I want, but 2 times a week I need to post. So I kept that schedule consistently, and a lot of times it's really hard to come up with ideas. So it'd be really random stuff like minimalism because I was like kind of into that, and I thought, I can make a couple videos about that, or like videography. I tried to make a couple things that I knew about it, and maybe somebody'd watch it or whatever. And I was like, I just need one of these videos to like go semi successful, and I'll be good. So about 8 months in, I realized, man, this is like wasting my time. It's not really working. So I kind of quit uploading for a couple, maybe like 2 weeks, because I got really busy over that summer. And that was like 8 months in. And then randomly, one did really well.
Which video was that?
That was the box hop video. It's a container home in Ohio. And I just did like a 5 minute tour of it. And I posted it. I think that was like the last video I posted before I took like a break. And a couple weeks later, Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, like just tweeted out the link with no context, and it got like 15,000 views that day, and then it just went up from there. Really random.
And then, yeah, well, it's super random that Jaden Smith found your video, but I did watch your video on analyzing the aftermath of Jaden sharing your video on Twitter. I thought it was super fascinating that you had noticed on Instagram that he was following a lot of these alternative living type of accounts. Like that's honestly like a very interesting like perspective from a marketing standpoint to kind of analyze who celebrities are following to kind of get an understanding of their interests and whatnot.
Yeah, I saw he's only following not very many people, so I just looked, and he was. So I'm like, I guess he has an interest in these type of videos, which I don't know why he shared it. I don't think anybody's ever seen him post or talk about things like that.
Yeah, but well, it was, I mean, it's again, it turned into content for you too, which is cool,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it did.
And like you said, it's hard to come up with ideas. Like I want to go into how you come up with these ideas now. Like what is your process? I mean, especially now that you are just mainly focusing on this niche of Airbnb tours essentially. Um, what does that look like from start to finish?
Like creating, I would say, my main videos right now are the tours of these unique Airbnbs. Right now, I have an arsenal of Airbnbs saved, so I kind of plan them out in advance. A lot of times, I'll just sit through Airbnb and like go through the categories and try to find some. Once I find a good one, I'll look in the surrounding area for other ones I could possibly visit. So I do that. A lot of the times, I'll reach out to him asking if I can stay there for a video. A lot of times I say yes. A lot of times I say no for whatever reason. But then, I'll plan a trip. I'll go out and I'll do like anywhere from 3 to 9 or 8 in one area kind of in a week. So I have a batch kind of on reserve so I can come home and edit them and kind of do other things and then rinse and repeat really.
Okay, wow. So that's cool. Like you'll hit up the Airbnb hosts and let them know. It must help too now that you have, your channel is like taken off and you have, you know, six figures of subscribers and rising, right? Like that you can there's like proof of work that you can say, "Hey, I have a YouTube channel." And we get a lot of views and it'd be awesome if you could comp our stay or something like that. How many yeses do you get relative to no's when you pitch them that opportunity?
Surprisingly, it's probably like 60-40, 60% yes, 40% no. And usually the no people are like really big name Airbnbs that they're always booked and they're probably thinking, I don't need a video. Why lose money with a video whenever I'm already like booked for a year or whatever? I get it, but then sometimes I don't understand as well. But, good relative time they say yes.
Gotcha. How do you discover these? How do you find them? Like what are there like is there like some sort of like unique search that you're doing on Airbnb? Cuz I mean, personally for me, I would like to know so that I could find some of these some unique Airbnbs close to me that I could stay at for a little time, but again, how are you going about finding these Airbnbs?
For sure. So there's definitely that's probably my most popular question. I would say outside of the YouTube world is how do you even find them? And I would just say like there's lots of accounts out there that post Airbnbs. Like there's one account I follow that posts cool Airbnbs specifically in Arkansas. So they do the work for me basically. Or there's a couple other like Facebook groups that post Airbnbs every day, just all around the world. So if there's one that's close by, I'll save the ones that are all close or in the United States or whatever. Uh, Mainly, I would say is when you go in Airbnb, you can refine your search to there's like tiny house, there's tree houses. You can refine it to dome homes specifically, and they probably have like 30 or 40 options for that. And that's mainly how I do it. And
So do you normally? Oh, go ahead, Levi. Sorry.
no, you're good. They're pretty like spread out too. So like container homes are, I would say, probably the rarest type of unique Airbnb. And so if you're looking in a specific spot, you're probably not going to find them. I like expand to the whole United States and do container homes. Or container home isn't even an option, sadly. But I'll do like tiny house, and then that like I'll go from there. Then I'll find one, and then I'll go to that area and look.
So will you just like maybe pick an area that you're interested in visiting? For example, like I mean Joshua Tree, right? Will you pick an area and then just do that search, and then you'll see what comes up?
Yeah, yep, I'll do that exactly. I'll start by state, maybe like the whole state of California, or maybe just the southern part of it. And I'll notice that in Joshua Tree, that's like a hot spot for pretty cool Airbnbs. So I'll just go to Joshua Tree then and look around and save all the ones that are cool. Then I'll try to plan them out. The hard part is like the logistical side of things because they're all booked different dates. So I got to like match them all up, and then I'll ask or reach out to them, and they'll say yes or no, then redo it all.
How long does that take you to just kind of figure out all the logistics of shooting and planning these trips out? Because not only that, then you have to like book. If you're coming out to California from Ohio, you have to book a flight to come out here, and then figure all of those things out too.
Yeah, it takes a long time, surprisingly. Right now, it's just me kind of doing everything. So, shooting, doing all this. So, probably I'd say from a blank slate to going out and shooting, probably take, if I did it like all day, probably 2 or 3 days to plan it all and have it booked in the schedule. And then, I plan out in advance. So, if I book it or if I plan it, I probably won't be there for the next 2 or 3 months, maybe 4 months or so.
Okay, so you're booking these out like way in advance. So you probably know what you already know what January, February, and March look like for you at this point.
Yeah, yeah. I'm booked through December, so those videos will bleed through January and maybe February. But the key is to always stay on top because I don't want to be a week or like be running out and then I have to plan a trip because the good Airbnbs are always booked, so you got to book them in advance.
Gotcha. how how do you keep yourself sane throughout all of this, right? Because look, it's I'll say this: like I've worked in some interesting industries in my career. I got to work in professional sports in the NBA. I used to work in hospitality in Las Vegas
That's
in the
so cool.
nightlife industry, and they're very glamorous, right, on the surface. But at the end of the day, it's still work, and this is your work. Like I think some people might obviously there are a lot of people that envy you and watch your channel and think, man, I want to do that, I could do it better than him, or I just want to be like him, or his life is easy, he just tours Airbnbs for a living. But this is work, right? Like this is not this there are stresses, I imagine, that come along with uh with managing a channel like this.
Yeah, it is definitely work. There's, 90% is behind the scenes, and the 10% is what everybody views. But I still love what I do. I'm getting into, it's a mixture of, doing what you love and enjoy, but turning that into work can be messy sometimes. But I still really love what I do and seeing everything. But yeah, it's definitely sometimes really stressful trying to figure out the logistical side of things and planning the channel. Or, whenever I whenever some videos don't perform as well, that's really sad on my end, I would say, and I try to figure out why that happened and maybe not do that again.
What are some of the reasons? Do you notice any particular trends or themes, common themes of the videos that perform better versus the ones that don't perform as well?
Um, I'm still trying to learn all of that, but I would say at a little bit I would understand. Tiny homes are definitely popular, but there's specific tiny homes that are popular. If you transform your garage into a tiny home or something, I think you need to spin the video into like, I renovated my garage into a tiny home, not like, here's this awesome tour, come stay here. I would say those ones are for the ones that are like really cool looking on the outside, or the inside is like nicer than some people's homes, which is pretty crazy. I think a lot of people like those, or like the tinier you get. I think people are really interested in that. Like 130 square feet is the smallest tiny home I've been to, and a lot of people were interested in that one, and that was like micro. And I've done some it's not just tiny homes. I do a lot of like bigger cabins. Like one I just recently did was an 18-person cabin, but they had a real waterfall and they converted it into like a swimming hole, and it was heated. That was very, very unique. And I think they had a couple other unique things in their home that I've never seen before. And I think a lot of people were interested in that. And it was overall beautiful. They like hit the nail on the head on every aspect. So a lot of stuff like that's important.
Are all these homes that you've been able to visit, I, are all of them custom built? Like these people worked with builders to create and turn these things into reality.
Yeah, a lot of them are. A lot of them are also built by the owners themselves. They've decided to build like their own tree house or whatever. So that is a big, huge benefit, I would say. Some of them are people can buy themselves, like, standard tiny homes or plans or whatever, and they built. Some of them are like that. But a lot of them, surprisingly, are built by the owners.
Did you ever get a chance to talk to the owners when you're there, and discuss like the story or the history of the places that you're staying?
Yeah, yep, I typically do. Sometimes the owners live somewhere else and I don't get to see them, but sometimes they meet me there and we talk and chat for a couple hours or so, and they tell me the whole process of, you know, either how they built it or how they renovated it, why they chose Airbnb, and, how things are going on Airbnb. It's really interesting. And some of the ideas, like interesting ideas they have and how they came up with those ideas, it's just really, really fun, I think, to listen to.
Are there any stories that come to mind from those conversations that you might be able to share? Like anything interesting?
Um, it's just like why people are interested in the different types of styles of homes, I would say. Like some people are really into geodesic dome homes, which I think is very interesting. And some people are into, how small can I get? Or, I always enjoy the stories of, this was just like my shed in the backyard, and I just decided to make it a little tiny home and put it on Airbnb for, maybe somebody might stay in it every now and then, or it'll mainly be for my family when they come visit. But then it turns out into this very popular Airbnb that's booked out for a year and a half, and they're just like blown away from it. I like those kind of stories.
That's cool, man. I've thought about it myself at some point. So it'd be
Yeah.
cool at some point to is that in your future as well? Like I your fixer upper is more of like a rental property, traditional rental property that you're trying to do, right? Or you might live there, or is there opportunity to do Airbnb with that?
That one, we're just flipping it, and I'm just going to sell the home just to make some money. But the reason I wouldn't make that an Airbnb is because we live in nobody comes here in my area to visit, really. I don't think it would, and it's just like a typical house on the outside. So if I would do want to do Airbnb. That is in the plans in the future, possibly. And I want to do something really unique, because I think the unique homes is really what attracts people to come stay. Even in the middle of nowhere, a lot of these places I visit are in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing like touristy around, but these places are booked constantly because the place you are at is so cool.
I saw that.
And you can make a lot of money from it on Airbnb. People charge, between, $200 to $900 a night.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it in term, yeah, if you think about it in terms of rent prices, right? If somebody, depending on where they are in the country, let's say you're paying like $1,500 in rent. Well, if you're a property owner and you've got your property on Airbnb and it's good enough to charge like $300 or $200 a night, you could basically make that amount in rent in like 10 days, right? Or
Exactly.
fewer. So it's a really like lucrative opportunity, business opportunity in like the rental real estate space for people,
It
which
really
is super
is. A
cool.
lot of the cool Airbnbs are way more expensive than like hotels or anything like that, which I think if you're not used to Airbnb or whatever, kind of surprise people. But it's true. You can make a lot of money in a month, especially the ones that are, a lot of them are always booked out. So you have every night bringing in $300 or $400.
Yeah, that is that is a definite money, especially now during like the COVID times, right? I think more people are they want to travel, but they don't necessarily want to be in a hotel where, a bunch of people may have stayed in the room before. You're having to interact with a bunch of people in the lobby and whatnot. So getting a private place on Airbnb is a bit better of a proposition. Um,
Exactly.
I want to know what do your family and friends think about this? Um, Early on, like when you were getting started and you were posting videos and whatnot, um, what were their thoughts up until like when you started to see some success with YouTube?
Yeah, definitely. That's a good question. My family has always been supportive of everything I've done. They saw that I was making money just being a freelance videographer, and since I could do this on the side, I told them from get go, I was like, I want to make money on YouTube. This is why I'm doing this, and they always like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I know people can do that, but whenever I started making money and I told them how much was coming in and I was transferring to this my full time job, they later on told me I was like they were talking amongst themselves, being like, "Yeah, I don't know. Maybe he might make some money. He might make a couple $100 a year on YouTube or whatever," which is cool. But then it blew their minds what actually came out of it. So it's just really neat.
D- So it's just like the amount, like the fact that you've been able to now do this full time, is it still like, oh my God, wow, how is he able to do this for a living for most of your friends and family?
Yeah, I think it is. They wonder, and you know, I don't know what they think really. I don't. I know my family thinks it's really awesome and incredible, but I kind of just keep it on. I wouldn't say the down low, but I'm not like talking about it all the time with everybody. But they know that I'm doing this as a living, and they think it's really cool. And I think the younger generation more so understands that like this is very accessible to do a full time living on because they see a lot of other people they watch do it. So I think that's really neat.
Yeah, I mean, like you grew up like watching YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Like I, I mean, I'm a bit older than you. Like I remember when YouTube first started. That makes me sound old. The fact that I can say that. Like I remember when when it started back in the day. I was a freshman in college. I remember in
Oh man, 2005.
2005.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just was like, I remember when YouTube started and I thought to myself, finally, there's some place I can go and find videos because there wasn't like watch videos and stream them online because there wasn't a place before YouTube that did it reliably well. And I didn't it's funny to see now, like, or amazing actually, not necessarily funny, to just see the opportunity it breeds for so many people, right? Like, I mean, amazingly, if you think about it, like these two things that your that center around your channel, right? Like your platform is YouTube and you tour Airbnbs. Like these didn't even exist like 25 years ago, and you're making a living off of them, which is so awesome.
Yeah, it is pretty awesome. Yeah, I've always watched YouTube, and I'm really curious about the longevity of everything since I know YouTube's been around for a while and I've seen other people make their channel everything last. So there's definitely a way to do it, but I've also seen people where they just die out, and you don't know what kind of happens because they just quit doing whatever they do. So that is always on my mind too, the longevity of this job, trying to make it last.
Yeah, and it's about also, I mean, in terms of longevity too, right? Like you want to make sure that you're not burning yourself out, right? You want to make sure that you have enough fuel in the tank, not just to do this for a year or two or three, that you can do this sustainably for, the rest of your career, maybe
Yeah,
potentially, or 10 years, 20 years, doesn't matter. But that's that I imagine is like something that is challenging to do.
it is pretty challenging because nobody knows really. So it's always just being in the top of your game on the tiptoes, I would say, which is what a lot of people like. So, and it makes it really fun. I think it's not really random, but like not getting the same stuff, week after week or month after month. So you're getting to do new stuff. You get to see the results basically instantly. So, and adapting to all of that, it's pretty fun.
How much are you looking at the analytics of your channel in terms of informing your decision making with production and editing of your content?
Probably too much. I like the analytic. I like the analytics a lot. So whenever I upload a video, I'm always checking the analytics. I know a strategy is to, see how your video is performing within like the first 30 minutes, and if it's not performing, similarly to your last videos, you change the thumbnail and title or whatever really quick. So there's some strategy behind that type of thing. So, but other than that, I'm checking every day, really seeing what happens. Sometimes videos pick back up through the YouTube algorithm, I would say, months after. So those are always surprising and fun.
How are most people discovering you? I mean, I've mentioned my story at the beginning of the program that I saw you through search.
Yeah, what did
So,
you search? Just container home or tiny house?
something like that. I don't know. I mean, there's just there's so many channels that are similar to yours that I follow too. I mean, there's Rob's channel. I follow another channel called Exploring Alternatives.
Yep, I know them, or I've heard of them.
Living big in a tiny house. Some is guy in New Zealand, I think.
I think he's the biggest guy in the game for tiny house
Yeah,
game.
you're gunning for him.
No, I like
But
him. I like his videos a lot too. I watch a lot of them. But I think people find me kind of just similar to you. They either type it in or it's in their suggested from people. I think it is a core niche, so people watch tiny house videos constantly. So whenever they see new ones on the side, they'll click on them. Or a lot of it is from YouTube algorithm. Recommending my content to other people. That's probably the biggest.
yeah, I will say that out of all the algorithms that exist in terms of digital and social media, I do like the YouTube algorithm the most because it does give me content that I do like. Because I'll notice on my front page, it'll deliver like some of your older videos to me to watch, or other people who I subscribe to.
And that's
And
nice.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so if I see a thumbnail or a headline that like grabs my attention, I'm more willing to click on it, especially if it's from somebody who I'm already subscribing to.
Yeah. And isn't it crazy just how the thumbnail and title are literally the most important thing in the video to just get people to click on it?
How much do you obsess over those things?
Oh, I obsess over that. I mean, I do a lot because I know that's the most important thing. So I really try to think of like, man, what would make me? I try to think like, why would I click on this video? And it's like trying to think of the most clever title, and that's really hard.
Do you try to come up with like different variations like before you actually publish? Maybe, in like marketing, there's the whole idea of like A/B testing, right? Like, do you maybe like come up with three different title options or three different thumbnail options and then just kind of test?
I do. Yep, that's exactly what I do. Sometimes I'll do a poll, like on my Instagram, which one should I do? And they'll vote, and that kind of tells me what to do. Or, like I said, if I see one, my video's just not doing well, I'll just switch them out. I have a couple just in case, I'll just switch out.
Smart. Oh man, that's really cool. So you'll post it on like your Instagram story or something like that, and just use the poll option to see what the people like the most.
Yep, I'll do that. Or I'll like fake it into my feed. So I'll like Photoshop into my feed because it looks a lot, on my phone or computer, the image is huge, but on the phone, it's tiny. So it's like, what's going to stand out if I'm scrolling or just looking at videos on the side? That's hard.
Yeah, you got to think mostly about mobile these days, right? Like more so than desktop. Like I watch even now. Do you even think about people watching on smart TVs? Because I'll admit I watch quite a lot of your videos on a smart TV, but I'm still accessing it through my cell phone,
Yeah.
right? Like I'll cast it to my Amazon whatever that Amazon Fire Stick.
Yeah. The good thing about YouTube is you can see the analytics from what people are watching your videos on. So for me, it's like 50% mobile, which is crazy because I watch everything on my computer. And that's only about like 15 or 20%. And then you can see like TV or gaming consoles sometimes. So it's mainly mobile. That is the market, or that's the game.
Gotcha. Does that influence the way you're shooting these things too? Are you constantly thinking about, am I gonna do I have to frame this shot in a way that is very visible or clear for somebody who's watching this video on their cell phone?
Yeah, kind of. Specifically with the thumbnail. If you're watching it on the mobile, the thumbnail's way smaller. So if you have a very busy thumbnail, you know, when you're scrolling, your eye's not gonna click on that and remember it. But if it's like something bold and at you, or if it's just a singular object kind of in the thumbnail, that's what I prefer to go to. So
Awesome. By the way, I just want to be mindful of the time. Like, are you good to go a little bit longer, or do you need to head out soon?
yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay, awesome, man. This is a good conversation. I'm enjoying like chatting with you and learning about all these things. To be honest, um, it's great. I
Yeah.
I, I want to ask another thing. I want to ask about. We're still on this topic of thumbnail and title. What about the other elements of your video, like your description, tags, categories? Now you have like YouTube chapters. That's like a newish feature that has been introduced
Yeah.
into YouTube. How are you thinking about all those things relative to the other um, facets that you have to optimize outside of the content of your video?
Yeah, yep. I think of all that as well. I have chapters is new, and I like that a lot as a viewer. But to me, I skip through a lot of the video, and I only watch certain segments of the chapter. Since I'm like, if I'm watching the video for this reason, I'm only gonna watch that 30 seconds or whatever. So I don't know. I haven't used chapters yet, but it would be very well on my channel because I could do it by space. Yeah, I could do the living room, kitchen, stuff like that, but I haven't done that yet. But for like the description is really important because the top fold, which is what you see in the description whenever you're watching the video, like the top two lines, that's like the most important piece. And whenever you do advertisements, they always want their spot up there, which makes sense. But tags is really interesting. I've never noticed, and I don't even know if those work or not because I don't know. Sometimes, like the search results, I can see what people searched and they click on my video. Most of the time, they don't even match my tags. And I watched this video one time where this guy figured out or like decoded something with one of like MrBeast's YouTube videos, and he could see the tags that he would use. And MrBeast doesn't even use tags, so he just leaves them blank, and he's crushing it. So I don't even know if some things like that make me just wonder if things even work or not. Kind of with the algorithm, you even wonder, how does that even work?
that's so fascinating that you bring up MrBeast because obviously he's like the top dog in the game right now, right? It
Oh,
seems
so top, yeah.
he's and honestly, I had just been introduced to his content recently myself, and from a marketing standpoint, I can see why his content, some of his more recent content, is performing as well as it does. He kind of has like this flywheel, right? Where I mean, most of his content now, he's giving away stuff, and they're like outlandish giveaways. Like, I think he had one video where he he broke into somebody's house and left them $50,000 or something. I watched another video that he did recently where him and his friends drove Ubers and then gave the passengers the
Yeah,
cars.
I saw that one too.
So there's so like there's such, and that's just something historically that I've seen from watching YouTube videos work super well when you're able to like incorporate giveaways because it just adds this like amazing wow factor to it. And then at the same time, you could even incorporate brand sponsorships, right? Because let's say you're giving away a car or like a Tesla or something, you could potentially go to Tesla and say, hey, I have a YouTube channel with 50 million subscribers, give me a card, I'm going to give it away, and we'll get like 50 million views or something like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think brands should take up on those deals all the time. That's such good marketing. But yeah, Mr. Beast is
Yeah, I don't know.
crazy.
Maybe that could be, hey, that could be something for you, Levi. Maybe I would love to see you do that, and I'll enter the contest if you do. Maybe you should do some of these maybe some of these Airbnbs do like a giveaway contest or something. And maybe that might also help.
Yeah, I've thought about that before. Giving away a couple nights stay at one of these Airbnbs. I don't really know how to do giveaways. Like, you mean film it or give it away to one of my audience people?
It would be so like you would go maybe like, here's me just kind of thinking with my marketing mind right now. Like I would I would go through all of your like existing content, like your existing YouTube videos, and then pick maybe like the most popular one that did the best, and then center the giveaway around that. And then actually, yeah, like give away like a free weekend stay at that particular Airbnb, and then you would incentivize people to enter the contest by having them as a whatchamacallit, why is the word escaping me right now? It's an incentive for entering the contest. They have to maybe reshare one of your videos or like share your channel to somebody else, to try and encourage them to subscribe. I think that could be a real way to help boost the following and the subscriber count and the view count for your channel.
Yeah, I totally agree. I've thought about that before, but I don't know how to track who, shares my videos or subscribes. Like, I can't tell any of that. So I've always been like trying to think of that as well.
Yeah, I'll email you some things because we're even thinking about doing something like that ourselves. For it is like one of the oldest like marketing tricks in the book.
Giveaway stuff.
It, and there are like software and tools out there that enable you to do that. So I'll send you some stuff after we wrap up here with the
Perfect.
interview. But I think that'd be like a super interesting way to like kickstart or like supercharge your growth for your YouTube channel. Um, Speaking of that, like I'm curious, what other things are you doing to promote your channel at this point? Are you mostly just doing your best to optimize the tags or optimize the YouTube properties or YouTube assets, and then also making good content to try and catch the attention of the algorithm? Are there other things that you're doing as well to promote your content?
Um, I post not necessarily. I post, my Instagram feed, and I'd say my Instagram is more of, the core following, because if they're watching me and following me on Instagram, they're pretty interested, I would say. And I rely on a lot of like people sharing the video. When in the beginning, when I was creating, making random videos, I try to think, if I'm a nobody, how am I going to get people, how am I going to get my content out? So I was trying to think, if I can just create shareable content, that should be good. If people can easily share my videos, I think then they will. So I think tiny houses or unique homes are very easily shareable. So I think that is a core reason why, another way I'm getting, videos out there, because people want to show their friends or family, hey, check out this cool spot that's only, 30 miles from me, or just check out this cool spot. I'm not like a vlogger where I've never understood anybody that would share a vlog or anything like that.
Yeah. No, there's your videos definitely have like a remarkable factor to them. Like I've shared your videos with friends on like
Well, there we go.
yeah, on iMessage, I'll watch one of your videos and then just literally hit the share button on YouTube and then text it to a friend. It's so easy. Like it whatever is like the easiest, like the path of least resistance to make people share something, they'll do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I even like tell my audience to share these videos, like send it to, your significant other and be like, "Hey, let's go on a little retreat here." And maybe it sparks an idea in their head. Like, "Oh, I will do that." Maybe.
are you scripting out your videos too before you go and film them? Like, do you have an outline of, the areas that you want to hit, the things that you want to say? From my perspective as a viewer of your channel, it seems like to me that when you're doing the walkthrough of the houses, you improvise and you're kind of just talking on the fly. But I'm kind of curious about like how you go about structuring or scripting your videos if you do that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I do not script them at all, actually. I will go and tour the home myself. I'll walk through it. What really helps me remember the home is I'll do all my B-roll shots first. So I'll get footage of everything of the home. And then maybe the next day or that night or something, I'll do the voiceover, the scripted part where I talk to the camera and stuff. And I kind of just, run through the home in my head. How would I walk through this home? So I kind of just walk through the home in my head as I describe it. And there's lots of cuts, there's lots of editing out because I mess up a lot or I'm trying to think. So putting all that together, and at the very end, have the video. Sometimes I'll just sit in front of the camera if I'm by myself, and I'll just script it out, or on the fly, or if I have like my wife with me or something, she might follow me with the camera and I'll actually be in the rooms that I'm touring. Those are the two different styles right now that I'm kind of doing with my videos.
Gotcha. You and your wife Savannah, you're incorporating her quite a bit in the video. It's like you and her now in this channel, obviously with like the house that you bought and some of the other videos. How is it in terms of her getting more comfortable on camera and more confident on camera?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people aren't confident on camera or comfortable, so I totally get it. But, I'm trying to incorporate her more because now we're married, and, I think there could be a good, I like having her in the videos for one, but two, there could be a good benefit. Maybe people can relate to us a little bit more, or a lot of people might like, the dual house hosting, like Chip and Joanna Gaines or something like that. But so I'm kind of experimenting with that, seeing what people are saying. And because she's always with me in the tours, but I've only recently started including her in them. So we're just seeing what that's like. And it's really fun.
Was that did you just ask her to be in it, or was she also like, hey, maybe I want to be in the videos too?
No, I asked her to be in the video. She doesn't.
Did you have to convince her to be in the video? Like, was she a bit hesitant, or was she totally open to the idea?
She a little bit both. Totally open to it, but she's not totally she wasn't totally comfortable in front of the camera. And plus, she's a school teacher too, so she was wondering, she doesn't want her students to find the video and talk about him in class and embarrass her or whatever. But so that was fun to talk about and do. Her students sometimes watch him and they'll point out things that she said, and it's pretty funny.
What grade does she teach?
She's a high school Spanish teacher.
Oh, okay. Bueno. Very cool.
Yeah.
Um, on on a related note, what about for you in terms of being comfortable on camera, right? Like you know, we go back to the beginning of our conversation and you had this journey where you were, you know, you were a freelance editor, freelance videographer yourself, but you were the guy behind the camera. And then you go into being on, you know, the guy who's on the stage essentially for these YouTube videos. How have you approached just getting better with your on-camera presence?
Yeah, definitely. In the beginning, I was just making goofy videos, so I think that really built my confidence to be on camera because I would do like really stupid or embarrassing things, and I thought it was pretty funny, so I would just keep it and post it or whatever and see what people thought. So I've never totally struggled with being in front of the camera. I've always kind of liked it. It's the most fun part, I would say. But yeah, talking to a camera is very difficult. I found out, recording other people and trying to make them just talk to the camera because you're just talking to nothing. And so it's really difficult to try to think about that. And, I totally get why people struggle, but I think over the years I've kind of just gotten used to it and butchered my way through it.
Do
And I've
you still feel like I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine. And I think another benefit is I've always edited my own videos, so I've never had to have somebody see everything. So I've always seen everything, and you just cut out the good parts, of course. So I think that might play along with it.
How many takes does it take you to get some of the shots that you want where you're doing your stand-ups in front of a camera?
Oh man, sometimes they can take me 10 or 12 times because I just stumble on my words, or I've been traveling all day and filming all day, so I'm like brain dead and I'm trying to think and I just can't spit it out. Sometimes it's pretty aggravating. You can ask my wife Savannah, she's the one behind the camera when that happens, and I can get just mad at myself, like, why can't I say this? But so I struggle a lot too. So, but I can just edit it out. I just realized that, and I just get through it.
Yeah, I mean, even here in this podcast, there are moments where, you witnessed it a moment ago, where I'm at a loss for words, and I may leave it in, may edit it out. We'll see how it goes. And if I do edit it out, people might be wondering, what are they talking about? Because I didn't hear any mistake on the show. But um, I want to ask you, Levi, another thing in regards now to just the business of YouTube. Um, you now at a point where you're able to work with some of these brands. I know that, um, for example, and they'll get a free plug here. You're welcome. Simply Safe is a brand that you've worked with. Tell me about the the process of working with a brand. How does that conversation even get started in the first place?
Yeah, so there's these companies that kind of act as the middleman, and they get the brands and they reach out to the creators. So I'm kind of working with this one right now at the moment, and they'll reach out and be like, hey, Simply Safe or whatever, is doing an ad next month for this much for a minute integration. Are you interested? And I'll be like, yeah, sure. And then that's kind of where it goes on from there. Sometimes, I'll get some random, companies or products that people will reach out to me about, and I'll either do it or I won't. And I've reached out a lot of times before. Most of the time, people say no or just won't respond. And sometimes I say yes. It just depends. So it's kind of a mixture of all of that.
So, is this company? I imagine it sounds like they're an advertising agency or marketing agency. They reached out to you directly about some of these branding opportunities. You didn't go out and pursue them.
No, no. I think their whole concept is working with YouTubers and getting them brand deals. So I've had a couple people, kind of a couple companies do that, and I just stuck with this one because I recognized it. It's Space Station. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I work with them, and it's really fun.
Gotcha. And did they have like they? I imagine they just have like an umbrella of creators with them, right?
Yeah,
that
from
they
my
just work
understanding.
with.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Like, so it doesn't sound like there's much. You don't do much negotiating on your end, do you? Like, do they just kind of come to you with the rate, and they ask you if you're interested, and you either take it or leave it?
Yeah, that's the easiest way. That's ads have come to me, or partners have come to me, so I kind of just tend to do the easiest way. But like I said, a lot of times people will reach out and be like, "Hey, what's your, advertisement rate or whatever for a 60-second video?" And I'll tell them. And sometimes they agree, sometimes they don't. So it just depends.
Gotcha. And so how helpful was it for you, like being a freelancer yourself, going back to setting prices, right? Did that inform your thought process or your price points for how you price out branding opportunities in your videos?
Yeah, kind of. I would say it did. I had to realize, I did a lot of research on YouTube as well and figuring out what other people are kind of charging or whatever. So that helped a lot. But, thinking about my average views, how many views I normally get, and there's kind of like a base CPM, I believe, for kind of what you charge with ads. So I kind of based it off of that a little bit. But what really helped me was, the companies reaching out to me and be like, "Hey, there's this brand that wants to wants to pay you this much for a 60-second integration." So that'd be like a starting point in my head. I'm like, well, if they're paying this much, other people will too. So that kind of helped out too.
Do they give you any direction in terms of how they'd like their brand portrayed in your videos, or do they kind of just let you do what you want to do in terms of integrating it into your content?
Yeah, no, it's mostly they have a script, and if you notice, like Squarespace, that's a pretty popular one. People always kind of say the same things about Squarespace. They script it all out for you. They'll give you talking points, and you can pick kind of which ones you want to do. But it's really, you know, a minute full of what they want, which makes sense to me.
Yeah, so let's on a final note, Levi, which is related to the topic that we were just discussing in terms of business, you have started your own little endeavor as well, releasing a merchandise line called Homies. I I understand the whole tie-in to the content that you're creating, but can you tell me a little bit more about the the idea behind it, and where that came from, and why you decided to start it?
For sure, yeah. I wanted to start it. I'm trying to think of different revenue kind of outlets other than just YouTube ad revenue, because that can suck a lot of the times. So I know creating merch or trying to sell something can really help out. And of course, I want it to relate to my channel and appeal to my audience and myself. Of course, I really like it as well. So I wanted to sell some shirts, and my wife Savannah thought of the name Homies because of course I do homes and unique homes, and my audience is my homies, so it fits. And the logo is like a little tiny house with a guy traveling to it, so it's pretty neat. I'm wearing it right now, actually. So that just got released not too long ago, and yeah, I'm really excited about it.
And what do you have available? Is it mostly shirts? Do you have sweaters? Do you have hats? Do you have all kinds of different types of clothing wear?
Yeah, you can get a shirt, you can get hoodie, sweatshirt, long sleeve, uh, sticker, a mug. It's through Teespring, which works really well with YouTube because you get the merchandise shelf in your description of your videos, so people can see, your merch and your images, and they can click on it and buy it. So that's the reason I picked Teespring, and they handle it all in house. So no handling really on my side. I designed it and just put it up there.
Awesome. Who designed the logo?
I ran a contest for it, so I forget his name, but they designed it. I kind of gave him inspiration, and yeah, it was on 99 Designs.
Oh, very nice. Cool. Well, check that out, homies. They can find it basically through your YouTube channel, essentially, right?
Yep. I have the store tab on my YouTube channel. You can go check that out, or in any of the descriptions of my newer videos.
Awesome. Well, we'll have links to everything in the descriptions of the podcast and everything. So if anybody's interested and wants to do that, as well as like your social media channels if people want to connect with you. But Levi, this is awesome, man. Thanks for being generous with your time and being open about your life now as a YouTuber. It's super fascinating and really cool to kind of deep dive into what that's like with you, man. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast.
Thanks again to Levi Kelly for coming on the show. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast and you want to learn more about Levi, then we've got links to all of his stuff in the podcast show notes, as well as the YouTube video description if you are tuned into the video version of this podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, again, please leave us a review. We love to hear from you wherever it is that you tune into podcasts. And if you want to stay up to date on everything that we're working on here in association with the Videocraft Show, make sure you subscribe to our email list. Until next time, thanks for tuning in.